Hey night owls, roll out that blanket and scoot a little closer to the Pixel campfire. Tonight we're not polishing a philosopher's spectacles. We're wiping dust from our eyelashes on a main street so dry it creaks when the wind rakes across it. Welcome to the Wild West, the real one. The one that smelled of a horse sweat, gun oil and yesterday's beans left too close to the stove. Before we sink our boots into this grit, tap that little stone-shaped button if you genuinely like hanging out here, and holler in the comments where the clock's sitting in your part of the world. Ready? Fix your hat or the nearest pillow and follow me. A dawn whistle wheezes like someone trying to play the harmonica after a bad cold, yanking you upright in the buckboard seat you've been calling bed. Sunrise isn't pastel. It's more like someone lit an oven behind the horizon and opened the door. The sky is already brazen, roasting every plank of Dead Horse Gulch. Population, half what the sign says on a good day. A scrawny rooster, you'd swear, is on its final life hops between wagon ruts, crowing late because coyotes kept it up all night. The air tastes of alkali dust, so fine it coats your tongue like unsweetened cocoa. Your first deep breath triggers a cough, worthy of a miner's lung. Congratulations, you're officially awake. We shuffle off the coach under the withering stare of Clyde the stage driver, a man built entirely of bone, leather, and suspicion. His farewell is a single nod and a throat clear that sounds like gravel in a tin cup. Luggage? You mean that carpet bag that's now 2 shades paler because it doubled as a dust filter for 60 miles. The ground crunches, 1,000 popped corn kernels under your boots, each step releasing the tang of sagebrush. Somewhere a church bell clangs 2 hesitant notes, the town's only timepiece running on guesswork and divine forgiveness. First stop, the livery stable. You inhale, instantly regretting it. Imagine warm cabbage left in a wardrobe with sweaty leather shoes, then stir in a dash of horsehair and last night's bourbon puke. Flies patrol like tiny outlaws, daring you to blink. Otis, the stable hand, offers a toothpick smile and a handshake stickier than pine sap. He's grooming a chestnut mare while muttering gossip. Sheriff Porter's revolver misfired yesterday, blasting a hole straight through the sign of Miss Lottie's laundry. The moral, according to Otis: never trust a factory primer or a jealous wife. We mosey toward the general store where a wooden Indian out front has paint peeling like sunburnt skin. Step inside and you're swallowed by the thick scent of coffee beans, fighting loudly with kerosene licorice twists and barrels of flour that leak ghostly puffs every time someone bumps them. Shelves groan under canned peaches shipped from some shining East Coast factory you've only read about, each tin rattling whenever a freight train passes 2 streets away. You exchange coins for Arbuckle coffee, charcoal black, tar thick, poured by Mrs. Hempel, whose grin is wide enough to store next week's inventory. Sip it carefully. Temperature, fresh lava. Flavour, smoke, rust, and optimism. Energy level, enough to spark a telegraph wire. Speaking of which, we slide next door to the telegraph office. Inside the staccato clackety-clack of Morse code is a woodpecker trapped in a biscuit tin. A kid named Jasper, freckles floating on sweat, punches brass keys faster than a carnival hustler, cups cards. Messages fly between towns, cattle counts, poker IOUs, maybe the occasional desperate love note that'll arrive 2 hours too late. You'd tweet, but here we beep. Mid-morning radiates heat like an iron stove door. Wooden sidewalks sizzle. People shuffle briskly, balance in between shade holes like chess pieces. The bakery burps out yeasty perfume, warm bread mingling with the sharper sting of pickled jalapenos from Señor Alvarez's taqueria cart. Your stomach bargains for both, but we're busy chasing sound, metal on metal at the blacksmith. Sparks fly, orange fireflies in broad daylight, as Big Clara, she's 6'2" of solid conviction, hammers a horseshoe into obedience. Every anvil strike rings your teeth. Every coal puff adds bitter smoke to the stew of smells crowding the street. Pause. Listen. Did you just hear a piano? Yep, saloon doors are already flapping, letting out ragtime thicker than maple syrup. Inside the Silver Spur, light slices through slatted shutters, striping poker tables in zebra shadows. The air here is 90% tobacco, 10% secrets. You tip your hat to Daisy Del Rio, part-time singer, full-time rumour engine, who's balancing a tray of whiskey glasses while recounting last night's bar brawl, in which two cowboys argued over the plural of Mustang. Spoiler. Fisk declared both grammar and economics the losers. Even here, manners exist. Spit into the brass spittoon, not onto the floorboards, unless you want Big Clara's little sister, Bigger Clara, suggesting a dental realignment service free of charge. Feeling daring? Try the house specialty. Snakebite whiskey with a pickled jalapeno floater. It sears your throat, drills a tunnel to your toes, and returns carrying every regret you've ever buried. Congratulations, you've had breakfast. Step back outside and you'll bump into Reverend Tubbs delivering what he calls premature salvation on the boardwalk. A sermon so fire and brimstone it could grill steaks. His sweat forms dark continents on his collar as he waves a leather Bible thicker than a cavalry saddle. Folks nod politely yet edge away. Heaven may be nice, but they still need to post letters. Letters? Off to the post office, a ramshackle box smelling of sealing wax, wood glue, and someone's hidden cheese sandwich. Pigeons nest in the rafters, cooing like bored telegraph operators. Miss Mabel, the postmistress, slaps cancelled stamps like sheriff badges onto envelopes. She tells you stage robberies are up. A gang called the Midnight Paydays stole 3 sacks of mail last week. Traded it for dynamite and poetry books. Figure that one out. High noon slaps down like a hot cast-iron skillet. Shadows contract to thin bruises beneath hitching posts. Metal buckles on your belt become branding irons. You can smell your own leather warping. Somewhere near the stockyards, cattle low in chorus, deep vibrating moans that shake dusty window panes. A drive's passing through, hundreds of longhorns clattering, dung splattering, drovers yodeling, orders half English, half throat noise. You taste ammonia, sun and fly wings. One steer breaks line, charges the bakery, and for 3 glorious seconds nobody remembers any diet. You duck into Doc Wheeler's office for shade. Medicine smells here are equal portions carbolic acid and stale pipe smoke. The doc, spectacles fogged by body heat, is stitching a gambler's forearm while lecturing about proper derringer etiquette. In the corner, a shelf holds laudanum, tooth keys, and pamphlets promising miracle cures if you'll relocate to Oregon. The ceiling fan squeaks like a sarcastic cricket. Back outside, gunfire, 3 quick cracks, peels down Main Street like angry thunder. Don't panic, it's a shooting exhibition. Sheriff Porter's patched the laundry sign and now demonstrates why laundry markers fear him. He pops glass bottles off fence posts at 30 paces, each shatter a tiny rainbow of sunlight and vinegar smell. The crowd applauds. Mothers clutch ears. Kids rehearse heroic futures. You note the sheriff's hand trembles halfway through. Coffee plus adrenaline equals chaos, and you silently file that away as foreshadowing. Afternoon stretches like taffy. We wander to the edge of town where homesteaders sweat under straw hats, coaxing trickles of water from a windmill pump. Wooden buckets squeak. The well chain rattles as cold mineral water sloshes out. smelling faintly of iron and ancient seas. You run wet fingers across your neck, instant bliss, then share a grin with an 8-year-old hauling hay bales twice her weight. She shrugs. Chores don't care about birthdays. Beyond the fence line, prairie grass rolls to forever, rippling under heat mirage waves. Distant thunder? Nope. Railroad construction. We hike a mile to the work camp where Chinese labourers and Irish pickmen trade songs you've never heard, rhythms carried by hammers striking spikes. Tar kettles bubble, giving off a burnt brown sugar scent no candy store would dare replicate. Supervisors bark, locomotives pant, and every once in a while dynamite pops like a mountain clearing its throat. Tea break, a tin cup of tepid water flavoured by copper. One worker tells you he dreams of a San Francisco pastry called Bear's Claw. Another swears he'll retire to Kansas City and breed greyhounds. They both laugh. Dreams weigh nothing, easy to carry, easier to drop. Head back toward town and you notice painted arrows on rocks marking Comanche hunting paths. A reminder the prairie belonged to someone long before barbed wire and telegraph poles. Wind gusts bring sage and something musky. Buffalo traces, maybe. For a heartbeat, the landscape feels too huge for your lungs. You're a dot with opinions. Sunset bleeds red iron across the skyline. Heat flees. Cool air pricks gooseflesh along your arms. Lamps bloom along verandas, their kerosene stink mingling with cigar smoke. The Silver Spur reopens its saloon windows wider. Piano riffs tumble out, now joined by Daisy's contralto humming Sweet Betsy from Pike. We step inside. The earlier morning haze replaced by golden lamplight that softens even the poker sharp's hard edges. Someone deals cards, someone else deals accusations. You hover, eavesdropping like a polite mosquito. Order dinner, beef stew spiked with chili flakes that glow volcanic in the bowl. Each spoonful fogs your glasses with steam and regrets. You can taste tin from the spoon, copper from the chili, and a faint hope you'll keep it down when the floor begins to sway to the musician's rhythm. Overhead, a ceiling fan stirs stale air with all the enthusiasm of a bureaucrat stamping forms. Out back, a drunk prospector serenades the moon with slurred Spanish he claims he learned from a donkey. You catch every third word: oro, Saul, barber, gold, sun, beard. Maybe a poem, maybe directions to the motherlode. Mid-evening and Reverend Tubbs reappears, now testing sin tolerance by joining a poker game for fundraising purposes. He blesses the chips before shoving them in the pot. Across the table, Daisy winks. We'll add that to tomorrow's gossip stew. Near midnight, a dry lightning storm flickers on the horizon, illuminating rolling thunder clouds shaped like titanic buffalo. The breeze smells of rain that might never arrive. Townfolk step onto porches, mouths open to the crackling sky. It's the Wild West equivalent of midnight fireworks. Then, hoofbeats. Fast. Urgent. A silhouette sweeps past the saloon windows. Dark hat, darker intent. Sheriff Porter bursts from the doors, revolver swinging, coat flapping like a wounded crow. You're pulled outside by the river current of onlookers. The air snaps with tension and ozone. 2 more riders thunder through. The midnight paydays? No time to label. Spurs clink, dust rises, lungs freeze. The main street becomes a rifle barrel pointed at tomorrow. Somewhere, a baby begins to cry. Somewhere else, a dog's howl cracks into silence. Your heart hammers not at your ribs, but through them. A jailbreak of pulse and fear. You smell gunpowder before a single shot, as if time throws the scent ahead like a spoiler. In that hanging second, every lantern flickers, every eye widens, and the desert seems to hold its breath, waiting to see who blinks first. The clouds swallow the moon, plunging the town into charcoal outlines, just in time for a second volley of hoofbeats, louder, closer, drumming like Judgment Day over a rickety bridge. You sense the earth tremble, or maybe that's your knees. Sheriff Porter draws a bead, finger whitening against the trigger, and then a thunderclap, natural or man-made, splits the sky. Before we dive back in, let me know where you're listening from. If this journey chills you in the best way, subscribe. Tomorrow, I have another story for you. Let's take that first shaky step off the porch and feel the street boards groan like a tired harmonica reed beneath our boots. Dawn isn't polite out here. It doesn't blush pink. It blasts open the sky in raw oranges that feel scraped straight off a camp kettle. Your nostrils sting with a cocktail of cedar smoke, horse lather, and the metallic twang of dried blood somewhere no one wants to mention. We move past the hitching post where last night's arguments still hang in the air louder than the sleepy sparrows. Do you hear the gossip? It flutters right there with the birds. A ranch hand claims he saw a coyote walking upright, wearing the sheriff's hat, howling for a raise. Tall tales fertilize Main Street better than manure, and by breakfast they're fully grown legends. Our first stop, O'Malley's Mercantile, a clapboard box painted the blue of an old bruise. Inside, sugar sticks glisten like small promises behind dusty glass. A coffee grinder growls under a clerk's elbow, the smell rich enough to chew. You'd think caffeine would be redundant in a town already buzzing like a jar full of bees, but here we are, lining up as if salvation is measured in scoops. We nod to a prospector whose beard is more tangled than frontier politics. He's poring through rifle cartridges and licorice with equal reverence. Out on the porch, a newspaper boy, bare feet, freckled nose, bangs tin triangles to announce headlines that would make a modern clickbait editor weep with envy. Stagecoach robbed, gold dust missing, rail baron spat spills into saloon brawl, and my personal favourite, Doc Everett promises miracle tonic swears it grew back his tooth. You glance over the print. The ink is so fresh your thumb comes away blue, but the truths underneath are already stale. We drift down the street to the blacksmith's forge where sparks crack like tiny revolvers with every swing of the hammer. The anvil sings, hot iron hisses, and sweat makes rivers down the smith's soot-inked forearms. Have you ever heard metal complain? It does, right now, squealing while it's bent into a horseshoe, like a stubborn boarder asked to pay rent. Across the way, the telegraph office flicks with clicks. A Victorian group chat, each staccato tap a new meme rocketing down the wire. Operators sit hunched over keys, shoulders knotting into one collective backache. They send more exclamation points than words, because urgency sells even before marketing departments are invented. Somewhere a rancher finds out drought claimed his last well. Somewhere else, a mother hears the railroad's hiring boom will bring her eldest back with pockets full of coins. Crash! The stagecoach barrels in, its wheels screaming like kettle whistles. Dust billows high enough to halo the sun, and the driver jumps down, coughing and swearing in a dialect that sounds like gravel spoken through a harmonica. You watch as passengers unfold themselves. A Boston banker sniffing at the air like it owes him an apology. Two sisters clutching parasols, eyes darting, pupils wide as saucers, and a gambler in a crimson waistcoat who flicks a silver coin with a wrist so loose he might be a magician. Why not follow them into the hotel lobby? Inside, wallpaper blooms with roses that died of heatstroke a decade ago, and the desk bell sings in a desperate falsetto each time a guest slaps it. We lean on the counter, inhaling starch and perfume diluted by sweat. Conversations tangle in the rafters, talk of cattle futures, church socials, rumoured Comanche sightings, and a preacher's scandalous fondness for poker. It's reality TV with splinters. But noon drags us farther, out beyond town limits where the prairie rolls like a runner's calf under taut skin. A cattle drive heaves forward, hooves drumming a heartbeat bass line. The air tastes of hot hide and grass ripped alive. Cowboys' whistles slice the wind, and here's the secret soundtrack. Distant thunder isn't a storm, it's a wall of beef complaining about blisters. Dust coats your tongue until every swallow feels like chewing on cardboard prayer cards. Fancy an intermission? Too bad. The sun says otherwise. We step onto a ridge and spy gold seekers kneeling by the river, trousers rolled, pans swirling in monotonous circles. Each tin crescent catches the light like a promise. Clink, swirl, hope. They do it as if the repetition might bore fortune into submission. You crouch, dip a pan, feel icy water gnaw your knuckles. A single fleck glitters, and for 2 heartbeats you're the richest soul west of the Mississippi. Then it swims away, a fickle firefly in the silt. Evening settles and hunger drags us into the saloon, threshold sticky with spilled rye. A piano wheezes a tune that died in New Orleans last winter, but no one told the keys. Your nose picks up a perfume duel between sawdust and cheap lavender soap. Patrons shout wages across billiard tables. Coins clatter, whiskey sloshes. The barmaid's laughter cuts through smoke like a lantern beam. Someone fires a warning shot into the ceiling. Frivolous ceiling maintenance, frontier style. The bullet hole joins 50 siblings, constellations of bad decisions mapping the beams. We push through swinging doors at the back and into the kitchen where a cook stirs chili so vicious the fumes feel armed. He drops in peppers rumoured to be outlawed for attempted tongue murder. You ask for a taste. He grins like a hangman invited to brunch. The spoon scalds your lips. Fireworks detonate behind your eyes, and sweat beads where you didn't know pores existed. Congratulations, you've been baptized in frontier cuisine. Night creeps up fast, like cat burglars who never learned subtlety. Street lamps, kerosene lanterns perched on crooked posts, flicker to life, halos trembling. We wander back to the sheriff's office, noticing the jail cell occupied by a drunk wearing one boot, and no story to explain the mismatch. The sheriff, boots on desk, tips his hat, eyes the horizon, and predicts trouble with the same calm certainty a clock predicts noon. He's carving a chess piece from chalk, tiny rook turned between thick fingers, because strategy never sleeps even when paperwork does. Past midnight, the railroad workers among us sprawl along unfinished track, backs pressed to frozen steel rails that hum with dreams of locomotives yet to come. Stars spill across velvet sky so bright you could read dime novels by them. Someone hums Shenandoah, the melody wandering off toward Kansas. You think about movement, how steel lines stitch America together like a desperate surgeon trying to keep a giant from bleeding out. Let's pivot. The butcher's shop at dawn. Do you wish you hadn't come? It smells like a biology lesson drowned in salt. Meat hooks sway, casting shadows that look suspiciously like punctuation marks in a grim sentence. The butcher whistles jaunty polkas while carving ribs, each chop choreographed like ballet with cleavers. Outside, hungry dogs form a silent choir, each tail wag a note in a pleading chord. Next door, the chemist apothecary glows emerald and amber through stained glass bottles. We tiptoe between shelves crowded with laudanum, liniments, and tonics, boasting secrets stolen from Greek gods. He hands you a vial labelled Nerve Cure, says it's equal parts opium, peppermint, and uncut optimism. You raise an eyebrow. He winks. The label might as well read, "Maybe." A sudden hoopla draws us outside. A medicine show has rattled into town on a wagon painted more garish than a circus on payday. A barker in a chartreuse tailcoat promises hair tonic that returfs your scalp better than spring returns to pasture. He gestures to a woman whose hair is indeed magnificent, mostly because it's a wig snatched from the prop trunk. The crowd claps, coins fly, and you wonder how many ailments are born in the promise of a cure. We hitch a ride east toward the army fort. Wood palisades, guard towers, cannons yawning in hush. Inside, laundresses snap icy sheets in the wind, muskets stand at attention, and a chaplain scribbles letters for soldiers too homesick to remember vowels. The bugler tries reveille for fun and is pelted with half-finished boots. You feel the walls listening. They know war may gallop over the horizon any sunrise, dragging politics too big to fit through the gates. By late afternoon we're riding alongside a mail coach, driver singing an Irish air cracked by desert. You stick your head out the window, air so dry it exfoliates sin, and watch telegraph poles march like skinny soldiers. Wind adds a chorus of whistles through knots in wood. Letters inside the coach shift with every jolt, each envelope stuffed with worry, confessions, or last week's joke from a sweetheart who's better with punchlines than promises. Supper finds us back at the edge of town, seated at a chuck wagon where beans bubble volcanic. A trail cook sprinkles pepper like he's salting rumours. The sunset bleeds crimson over the mesa, branding the sky. Coyotes yip in off-key harmonies that make you think the desert itself is laughing at our thin skin. You chew slow, letting the bean broth tattoo your tongue with smoke and cumin. The fire dwindles to an orange sigh. You lean against a wagon wheel, listening to the hush between embers. Somewhere beyond that hush, thunder growls. Not the bovine kind this round, but the genuine sky-splitting variety. The air shifts, cooler, electricity pricking arm hairs upright like a town committee voting no. Overhead, clouds stack high as courthouse ledgers. A heat lightning bolt scribbles across the night for one blinding instant. Chalk on a cosmic slate. In that flash, you see it. A solitary rider on the ridge, silhouette carved against fire-white heavens. Horse mane whips, coat-tail flaps, and though you can't hear their words, something urgent sails down with the wind. The thunder rolls again, closer, heavier, rattling tin roofs and your ribcage alike. Lamps in town windows blink, shutters clap. A dog whines low. The rider prods forward, hooves grinding gravel, sparks kissing stone. Your pulse sinks with the drum of the storm. What message do they carry? Is it warning, salvation, or just another story begging for an audience? Either way, the air around you tightens like a noose as the first fat raindrops explode in the dust, hissing and fizzing into nothingness on the hard-pan street. The rain smells electric, like someone scraped iron filings across a lemon peel, and when each drop meets the dust, it lets out a sigh so hot it could blister porcelain. You taste copper on the back of your tongue. Maybe lightning, maybe fear. Lanterns along Main Street judder and wheeze. Kerosene chimneys gutter in the downpour, casting stop-motion ghosts along plank walls. We duck beneath the barbershop awning, though the canvas leaks like a sieve stitched by a sleepwalking tailor. Water drums a nervous cadence on battered tin roofing, rat-tat-tat, mocking the telegraph keys now silent for safety. You feel the storm vibrate up the soles of your boots, an uninvited song rattling bones like dice in a saloon cup. Across the way, Mrs. Dauphine, the milliner who swears Paris still cares about prairie fashion, stretches her neck out the door, shrieking at the sky as if Kucha hats can repel thunder. A gust flips her signboard, splattering wet chalk. Finest bonnets, west of the Hudson, becomes finest bonnets before running ink melts it all into abstract art. Even the wind does commentary out here. Lightning whitewashes the world for a strobe flash heartbeat, revealing every boarded window, every warped shutter, every worry line carving the sheriff's brow under his dripping brim. The next instant plunges us back into a charcoal sketch, details smeared by rain until only edges remain. Somewhere a horse screams, not hurt, just startled. A high metallic note that slices through thunder like a violin string snapping mid-concerto. We sprint, because what else is there, toward O'Malley's Mercantile, puddles exploding around our ankles. Inside, the air hums warm and yeasty. Burlap, cinnamon, calfskin gloves steaming on racks. Kerosene lamps quiver over pickle barrels, turning brine into green galaxies. Old Mr. O'Malley mutters about plank drains and puts an empty coffee pot under a ceiling drip, each ping a curse in Morse code. You shake out your coat, droplets freckle a floor already polka-dotted with hoof mud and someone's lost playing card. The Queen of Hearts looking far less confident face down in sludge. A kettle hisses on the pot-bellied stove, and for a second nothing exists except that sighing warmth. Steam clouds your lashes. The scent of chicory and burnt sugar hitch a ride on every breath. You half expect a barista to appear foaming milk, but frontier luxury stops at clean cups. We cradle tin mugs that scorch palms almost gratefully, because comfort is a scarce mineral here, mined in spoonfuls. The door bangs again. A telegraph runner barrels in, soaked head to heel. Morse everywhere except his mouth because he's too busy sputtering news. A lightning strike nailed pole 31 outside Coyote Bend, fusing the wire like hard candy. Translation: the town's gossip pipeline just choked, and folks will have to share rumours the antique way, by mouth, eye roll and raised eyebrow. You feel an odd hush ripple through the Mercantile. Without the telegraph's tap dance, the place sounds hollow, like a church after the hymn sheet drops. Conversation thaws slowly. A gambler jokes that tomorrow's poker hands will be dealt without advance spoilers from Denver. Laughter ricochets off pickle barrels, but underneath, nerves hum at the thought of being disconnected. Imagine modern folk losing Wi-Fi. Same panic, fewer emojis. Storms on the high plains rarely linger. They crash in, punch a hole through monotony, then gallop away, leaving everything smelling like cold iron and wet sage. 30 minutes, 1 cup of nerve-settling chicory, and the rain already retreats eastward, stagecoach quick. We emerge into the afterglow. Streets glisten like freshly licked lollipops. Gutters gurgle miniature torrents. The sky flips from blacksmith's forge to wash-day blue in one miraculous wardrobe change. Look, steam rising off the railroad track beyond town. Silver ribbons sizzling where heat butts heads with rain's chill. A pair of section hands test the rails, boots slipping, hammers ringing in high A-flat. Every strike pops droplets into mist halos. They speak in shorthand grunts. Solid, solid. Westbound tonight? If the world don't drown first. We follow their gaze to the horizon where the express freight, 50 boxcars long, should appear by sundown. Its whistle haunts the prairie even before we hear it, like your phone chiming a phantom text at 3 a.m. Keep that anticipation humming. It knits a community tighter than church socials ever could. But anticipation has a rival named Trouble. Down by the livery stable chaos stews. A yearling broke free during the thunder and is now prancing figure eights among overturned feed buckets, nostrils flaring steam. Stable lads dash about with halters, but the colt leaps every attempt as though auditioning for a circus yet unplanned. You step back. Hooves blur, spray arcs from puddles. The smell of wet hide surges like damp leather slapped against your face. One mistimed grab and someone will be writing their will with shaking fingers. A stocky ranch woman, hair tucked in a scarlet bandana, wades in. She whistles once, pure and shrill. The colt freezes, ears pivoting. In a voice smoother than velvet on railroad iron, she murmurs lullaby Spanish. Remarkably, the colt lowers its head. She slings a rope with surgeon grace, slips the noose, and just like that, Storm's last tantrum becomes docile. You're reminded frontier heroes rarely wear tin stars. Sometimes they wear manure-splattered skirts and smell like linseed oil. Speaking of stars, the sky nudges the sun downward as if impatient for night's encore. Heat radiates off soaked earth, replacing petrichor with the musk of wet horses and simmering adobe. Hunger tugs your sleeve. We drift to the Chinese cookshop wedged between blacksmith and saloon. Its red paper lanterns reborn candles in post-rain gloom. Inside, steam ghosts up from iron woks, carrying whispers of ginger, scallion, and soy so salty the aroma itself feels like a handshake. Chopsticks clack, noodles sizzle. A rooster somewhere outside crows late, as if its alarm clock drowned. The proprietor, Mr. Liang, a philosopher with a cleaver, offers bowls that could resurrect a corpse or at least your will to keep walking. You slurp broth tasting of distant oceans and peppercorns that tingle lips like secret gossip. Western tongues stall trying to name flavours older than gunpowder. Mr. Liang gestures to a wall scroll inked with 4 characters, under one heaven. He nods at the restless townsfolk huddled over soup, miners beside cowboys beside card sharps, all steam-baptized equal. "Storm remind," he says, tapping his chest. "Everything small under sky." His accent bends words like bamboo in wind, but the meaning plants roots. You clink your bowl against his kettle, a toast without words. Soup becomes treaty, chopsticks ceasefire flags, bellies warm, boots squelch back outside. The last pink fringe of sunset bleeds into twilight. Fireflies kindle over puddles, tiny lanterns echoing those on doorways. We wander toward the freight depot where anticipation earlier pitched its tent. The lantern swings from the semaphore mast. Green, all clear. Moments later, a tremor spider walks up the track. Whistle. It isn't loud, it's colossal. A brass throat calling roll across counties. Sound waves slap the depot, rattle windows, flutter your coat like invisible flags. Then the locomotive bursts from horizon, headlamp blazing a tunnel through dusk. Steam billows white as cathedral gowns. Wheels clank a martial drum. You taste coal soot, acrid and sweet. Children cluster to count cars. Gamblers calculate odds. Freight clerks ready clipboards. The whole town aligns like iron filings to a magnet. Boxcars thunder past. Crates marked whiskey, barbed wire, piano parts, clock gears, a menagerie of civilization stuffed in wooden coffins. Sparks cascade where steel kisses steel. You pocket a glowing cinder before it cools, a meteor you actually caught. Just as the caboose rattles by, 2 silhouettes slink from behind baggage carts. Wide-awake eyes beneath low hats, dusters flapping like restless ravens. They pace the train's dragline, scanning for weak links. A porter notices, stiffens, but before he can holler they melt into shadow. File that image under trouble brewing. The West rarely advertises its villains. They slip in around the edges like coyote shadows at campfire perimeters. Night clamps down. A crescent moon hangs like a sheriff's badge polished by restless thumbs. Crickets file lawsuits against silence. You and I drift back toward the saloon, still sopping but high on locomotive thunder. Inside, piano notes tinkle again, remarkably in tune after storm humidity. The barkeep lines up mugs along a scarred mahogany plank still sticky from last night's regrets. You inhale yeast, pine soap, a faint citrus from the bartender's boot polish, an occupational quirk. Glass meets lip, beer tastes of bread storms and cellar darkness. Someone strikes a chord on a fiddle. Soon boots stomp rhythm, skirts swirl. Even the sheriff allows his chalkrook a pause. Hold on to that mug and watch. Here comes the Virginia Reel frontier version. Men and women trade partners like rumor traders switching sides. Your pulse falls in line with the beat. Shoulders loosening, heart coaxed into choreographed chaos. A gambler flips a coin to decide his partner. It lands wedged in a floor crack, eternal suspense. Mid-tune, a stranger strides through doors so calmly the piano hiccups. Tall, raincoat black as a tar pit, a silver concho shimmering on his hatband. No dust on boots, washed clean by heaven itself. Eyes the grey of spent ashes survey room, pause on no one yet see everything. Hand rests near holster, not because he plans to draw, but because his arm found home there long ago. The fiddle squeals into silence. Chairs scrape. Even the hurricane lamp flame leans away. Stranger tips his hat a quarter inch. Just enough courtesy to stay this side of sin. Then orders coffee, black. Barkeep pours. Hands cup like passing a live fuse. Stranger surveys steam. Nods, sips. Conversation tiptoes back, though softer. Think church whispers about sin while sinner sits front pew. We edge closer, eavesdropping under bustle boomerang. Stranger's voice gravel rich says he rides for the railroad, scouting safe passage through Apache territory. Needs volunteers for dawn departure. Pay is generous, risk more so. The saloon digests that news with clinks of glass, muttered calculations, and the faint rustle of a map unfolded inside skulls. You feel the pull, that magnetic itch to chase horizon lines even if they bite. Before anyone can answer, doors slam again. Remember those silhouettes? They storm in wearing the same dusters, now brandishing iron. Bandanas mask cheeks, eyes gleam feral. One fires into ceiling. Another ill-fated joist star punctures timber. "Hands high!" they bark. Liquor leaps in glasses. Lantern shadows cartwheel. Stranger's cup stops mid-air, steam curling like a question mark. You feel your own heartbeat climb ribs like a prisoner scaling jail bars. Gunpowder tang drifts thick, nose hair singeing. Time stretches, taffy slow. Bandits demand cash box, pocket watches, anything that catches lamplight. Patrons comply. Valuables plunk into feed sack with mournful clinks. A nervous ranch hand flinches. Muzzle swings. Hush sharpens. Then, a crash outside. The colt earlier escaped again, barreling into watering trough. Hooves splatter water against window. Bandits twitch. Half the saloon winces. In that breath of distraction, stranger moves, fast as guilt. Coffee cup flips, scalding liquid arcs into nearest gunman's lashes. A pistol clears leather with the hush of silk ripped quick. Muzzle flash strokes room white. Thunder inside four walls. Everything detonates. Tables upend, glasses shatter. Screams tangle with gunshots. You duck behind piano. Feel splinters pepper collar. The smell now is hot lead, burnt coffee, sawdust, adrenaline. Stranger rolls, fires twice more. One bandit staggers, clawing at air. Another leaps for door, forgetting bag of loot swinging lonely from his belt. Stranger walks him down with methodical steps. Tap, tap, each boot fall a verdict. Bandit crashes onto boardwalk outside, hat spinning into night like a runaway halo. Stranger kicks gun aside, kneels, checks pulse. 2-second shake of head. No doctor required. Inside, piano lid drips whiskey. Smoke curls upward, mapping trajectories of regret. The saloon breathes again, albeit ragged, like lungs reinflated after drowning. Sheriff arrives late, badge gleaming under borrowed lantern. He surveys ruined calm, nods once at stranger. Name? He asks. Stranger shrugs. Just passing through. Sheriff grunts, scribbles that down in a notebook already water-warped. A posse scoops wounded bandit still breathing. Cuffs clap. Hemp whispers future knots. The barkeep writes an unbroken bottle with reverence reserved for holy relics. He pours 3 rounds, calls them salvation shots. Stranger declines whiskey, asks only for fresh coffee. You raise your mug in thanks. He nods back, a silent toast among survivors. Outside, Rainstorm's after smell still lingers, coppery and clean. Clouds parted, stars return like old friends with better stories. Main Street glows puddle-mirrored. Lamplight twins ripple with every wind ripple. Bandit's hat lies crown up, collecting starlight instead of bullets. It's past midnight when we finally step away. Stranger mounts charcoal gelding tethered near the sheriff's porch. He tips that shadow-coloured hat our direction. Gratitude or warning, impossible to pass. Hooves clop into distance, echoed by cicada applause. Somewhere beyond the town's last kerosene halo, his outline dissolves among mesquite silhouettes, a comma leaving sentence unfinished. We wander toward the freight yard for quiet. Boxcars rest like giant sleepers, metal cooling with pings you feel more than hear. A night herder sings to cattle in stock pens, voice a lullaby thick with Gaelic longing. Steam from their nostrils collides with starlight, turning each breath storybook dragon. Easy now, Mogra, he croons. You don't know the words, but feel the balm inside vowels. Listen. Coyotes resume their gossip, distant yet daring. Somewhere a harmonica tests a hymn, reeds warbling shyly before finding pitch. You draw in desert air, still laced with wood smoke and rain musk. Lungs burn grateful. The world feels scrubbed, turned face up, ready for next chapter. But sleep? None for the curious. Instead, we hike to the bluff overlooking town. From up here, the roof lamps resemble constellations spilled on soil, and the railroad track curves away like an inkwell quill, stroke across parchment plain. Wind climbs ridge, roaring soft secrets. Tomorrow, payroll convoy rides. Tomorrow, scarlet bandana ranch woman sells that colt. Tomorrow, coffee will burn new tongues. And tomorrow we ride with a scout into territories blank on most maps. A shooting star streaks westward, quicksilver exclamation across velvet. You swear it arcs straight toward trouble as meteors often do. In its tail you glimpse silhouettes mounted against moonlit grass, maybe Comanche hunters, maybe illusions stamped by tired eyelids. Either way, horizon rattles with promise. Down below, the depot clock, looted from a St. Louis bank lobby, rumour says, tolls too. Hammer strikes bronze, vibrations crawl spine. You picture every sleeper jarred awake, wondering if dawn overslept. The notion tickles. What if sun decided not to rise? Thankfully, cosmic schedules rarely slip. We linger until eyelids sandbag. Town snores beneath us, safe for now in silence stitched by shotgun, fiddle and prayer. Finally we turn to descend but pause. Do you feel that? Earth tremor, faint yet insistent. Not earthquake, not freight train. Something heavier, slower, like destiny's wagon rolling iron-rimmed wheels. Across the prairie, just beyond moon's radius, lanterns bob, 3 of them, distant and deliberate. They glide in formation, not swaying like random riders, but carving purpose into darkness. You catch acrid whiff of burning pitch drifting on wind. Whoever they are, they move without song, laughter, or hoof clatter, ghosts wearing boots. We crouch among sage shadows, hearts sinking to that ponderous rhythm. Lanterns draw nearer, shapes of wagons emerge, canvas hoods pale under starlight. No freight markings, no cattle brands, yet armed outriders flank each wheel. Rifles glint, muzzles reflecting universe briefly before swallowing it. A guard mutters, just one word, nitro. Breath freezes in throat. Nitroglycerin. Enough to unmake mountains or crack safes bigger than city halls. The wagons lumber directly toward town, engines of quiet apocalypse, and we, you, me, this patch of prairie night, stand there on the bluff, every sense hyper-tuned. The air itself seems to recoil as wheels crush wet grass. A coyote's bark truncates mid-yip, like nature forgot the lyric. Lamp flames fuzz, halos trembling. Our muscles itch to run warnings down the hill, but feet root deep as fence posts. Eyes widen until stars swim. Below, lamps in town still glow cheerful, saloon piano now lulled to sleep. They're unready, soft, bottles restocked, chairs righted, bullet holes counted. No one suspects a convoy of bottled lightning creeps closer with each clock tick. On the ridge, breath hangs visible, white flags of alarm. Wagons pass under us, lanterns scraping the underside of leaves. We hear glass clink, delicate chimes of annihilation. One missed jolt in the west writes a new constellation in raw flame. Our hearts hammer Morse. Warn them, warn them, warn them. Yet the night holds its breath, and the convoy rolls on, ghostly and grim, toward the sleeping town where lamplight still dances carefree across polished revolver barrels, while every heartbeat on both sides of the ridge freezes on one impossible question. But forgiveness is short-lived. Down below, steam whistles shriek. The morning train squeals to an emergency stop. We scramble down ladders and sprint to the tracks. Mudslide. 100 feet of iron had slumped overnight, rails twisted like pretzel wire. The locomotive sits marooned, huffing annoyance. Passengers fan themselves on the embankment. A travelling opera troupe in velvet capes now splattered brown. A Quaker family clutching hat boxes full of unknown delicacies. 2 Pinkerton agents disguised about as successfully as a wolf wrapped in cotton candy. They crack jokes about detours, but their eyes dart west, timelines collapsing like umbrellas with no bones. Rail workers waste no time. Spikes removed, gravel shoveled, sleepers realigned. We kneel beside them, prying stones free. Each shovel scoop releases a smell like damp pottery. The foreman barks cadence. Sweat smears your vision. And there, on your third scoop, a thin gleam. Gold? Your heart somersaults. You thumb the object. An embossed pocket watch, glass cracked, engraved with initials S.M. Who's. Someone's timeline abruptly paused. You tuck it into your vest, a silent promise to find the story later. Repairs take all day. By sundown the train grinds forward and the troupe belts an off-key victory aria. We wave them farewell and head for the outskirts, toward Red Hollow Canyon, where flash floods carve walls smooth as soap. The path winds beneath cedar limbs, shedding raindrops that plink your hat brim like scattered applause. At the canyon mouth, we encounter scarlet mud streaks and boulders the storm shoved like angry toys. We pick across debris to reach a cluster of canvas tents, army engineers surveying for a telegraph spur. Their camp smells of tallow candles and boiled beef. A lieutenant greets us, moustache twitching like a proud ferret. He shows blueprints wider than saloon doors, detailing poles marching all the way to California. Each line is a vein of future conversation, yet you can't help picturing sparrows building nests on those crossbars, tweeting before Twitter. Night again. We sit by the engineer's fire, the smoke sweeter due to cedar kindling. They pass tin cups of rye and tins of peaches rationed for morale. Stars peer down, unbothered by telegraph dreams. Someone asks you to tell a story from the storm inside town. Words come easily around flame, maybe too easily, and soon the whole camp rattles with laughter when you dramatize Mercy Watkins' nugget and the sheriff's double-door stunt. Humour is a second set of stitches after disaster. A scout trots in, horse foaming, face dust-painted. He whispers to the lieutenant. The officer's expression falls like shutters against hail. He announces, "Renegades cut a stage line north. Few survivors, details scarce." The camp's mood flips from sitcom to tragedy in half a heartbeat. Mars, red and bright, hangs above the canyon rim as if taking attendance before war. You volunteer to ride messenger at first light. Why? Maybe guilt over pocketing that watch. Maybe adrenaline that hasn't learned when to quit. Dawn's cold will sharpen decisions anyway. The lieutenant nods, scribbles orders. We bed down on blankets smelling of canvas and last week's sweat. Revolver tucked under elbow. Sleep refuses. Coyotes yap across the ridge, echoing like children teasing from behind curtains. You roll onto your back, watch constellations shift. Somewhere beyond, the ocean laps a shore you've never seen. Will telegraph wires stretch that far? Will electricity marry two coasts? The thought jolts you awestruck. Pre-dawn grey finds you in saddle. Hooves drum frost-stiff ground. Breath puffs like locomotive pistons. The land unwraps slowly, sage turning mint, dirt warming to toffee. You spot prairie dog heads pop up, eyebrows raised like gossip columnists. A jackrabbit rockets across in a zigzag script only it can read. We reach the stage wreck by mid-morning. The sight pencils silence around your heart. Coach toppled, wheels jagged off, trunks split open like cracked chests. Paper scraps dance the dirt, letters, receipts, maybe confessions, while vultures await proper introductions. Soldiers are tagging bodies. You deliver dispatches, then help gather belongings for identification. The air smells coppery again, always copper when things go wrong. Among debris you discover a leather diary stamped S.M., same initials as the watch. Inside, pressed violets, sketches of desert flowers, and an unfinished sentence. If the rains hold, we'll reach Sweetwater by... That dash guts you more than the sight of blood. You slip diary and watch together, wrapped in oiled cloth, vow to deliver them to whoever waits in Sweetwater. The column escorts bodies back to town. Slow sombre miles, boots crunching like muted tambourines. Town bells toll once, twice, 3 times. Gossip is now obituary. The undertaker's parlour overflows with bouquets smelling too cheerful. You glance around. Even the tough-talking gambler wipes eyes, though he claims dust did it. Funeral marches thread the muddy street. Music, low brass, steady snare, a harmonium wheeze in minor chords. The crowd follows in hush, hats against hearts. Children gape, unsure whether to be scared or bored. You think about how quickly a life story can be edited down to a photograph and a date. After burials, town chooses distraction. Tonight's diversion. A travelling lantern show projecting magic lantern slides on the side of O'Malley's Mercantile. You secure a spot on an apple crate. The projector clicks and images bloom. Egyptian pyramids shimmering in sepia. Niagara Falls roaring like ghost water. a moonlit alpine pass. Gasps ripple. For many spectators, this is the farthest they'll travel with both feet on dirt. You watch faces as much as slides, wonder caught in lamplight. Children raise fingertips to the glow, trying to touch other continents. An old widow smiles for the first time since the flood. Even the Pinkertons lose their hard squint. Just two silhouettes leaning together, whispering surprise. Halfway through, the operator loads a slide titled The Future Metropolis. Suddenly you're staring at towers of glass swimming in electric light, horseless carriages darting like beetles. Gasps turn to stunned silence. The picture looks impossible, absurd, yet your gut says maybe. Maybe wires and rails and stories will stitch the world into something that dazzling. Lantern show ends. Chuckles mix with perplexed mutters. Imagine streets that never sleep. Skyscrapers? Pure hokum. You step away, brain buzzing louder than the insects around kerosene lamps. The ground beneath feels both ancient and newly born. Near midnight, you lean on the corral fence behind the livery. Crickets pulse. Horses flash white eyes at shadows. Distant thunder grumbles again. Another storm building? Number hoofbeats. Fast. You squint. A lone rider materializes from the dark, coat plastered with trail dust, hat pinned low by wind. He reins in hard, horse steaming, and shouts a name you barely catch. Sweetwater. Your heartbeat flares. SM's unfinished journey. Before you can call out, the rider wheels around, spurs flashing, and charges back toward the canyon, as if the moon itself hired him. You push off the fence, fingers tightening around the diary in your pocket. The prairie lies ahead, stitched by moonlight and secrets. Somewhere beyond those dark hills, Sweetwater waits, and with it, answers. The night air tastes of sage and possibility as far out on the plain, a lone coyote howls. Howl, throaty, rising, fading, until it threads itself into the low wind that keeps secrets moving east. You exhale the night out of your lungs and draw dawn back in. Sage, frost, distant camp smoke, a sprinkle of horse manure realism. The diary of SM taps your ribs like a nervous woodpecker in your breast pocket, reminding you there's a town and an answer somewhere beyond the ink-black silhouette of Red Hollow buttes. We saddle up before the first eyebrow of sunlight lifts over the mesa. The horse shivers against the chill. Steam halos its ears, making it look momentarily angelic if angels ever chewed leather bits. You cluck encouragement and we set off, hooves beating a steady I am across crusted mud. Each strike flicks silver sparks of frost that melt into grey dust mid-air. The prairie at dawn is an enormous blank page. No footprints, no verdicts, just a scroll of ochre grass waiting for somebody to scribble on it. Meadowlarks provide punctuation, flinging exclamation point trills from posts of bleached cedar that once dreamed of being telegraph poles. A jackrabbit the size of a small dog darts across your path, tail flashing like an oh-so-polite apology for nearly causing a wreck. 3 miles in, we pass the telegraph survey markers you saw the night before. Whitewashed stakes march into the horizon like timid soldiers, unsure whether this war will be worthy of medals. Behind them, 2 engineers juggle measuring chains while arguing if the line should veer left to avoid a buffalo wallow. They wave when they spot us. Well, one waves, the other just salutes with his coffee tin as though conceding the argument temporarily. Their campfire wafts aromas of chicory and burnt bacon, scents that could lure even a vegetarian coyote. We don't stop because momentum is a fragile colt. Once it balks, it may never move again. Instead, you shout a question. Sweetwater distance? Day and a half if the river behaves, the waver replies. The other mutters, 2 if it doesn't. We choose to believe the optimist because the pessimist smells like scorched bacon and broken dreams. Mid-morning brings us to a sea of tumbleweed that rolled itself into drifts during last night's tantrum. Each weed scratches your legs as if demanding toll. Dust devils pirouette, lifting skirts of grit high enough to display the prairie's scandalous ankles. You tie a bandana across your nose, not so much fashion as survival, and invent conversation with the horse because there's nobody else silly enough to listen. We debate whether tumbleweeds are failed philosophers or merely gossip columns that got too literary. The sun climbs, a dinner plate slapped onto a stove eye. Shadows retreat, puddling under cactus spines. Your canteen hits half empty, or half full, depending how philosophical you feel after tumbleweed debates. We pause at Sweetwater Draw, a shallow depression where last night's deluge pooled and then escaped, leaving mud patterned like chocolate brownie crust. You see boot tracks from an earlier rider heading same direction, maybe our mysterious courier. The horse snorts at the scent. You swear you smell urgency hanging in the air, something between hot iron and crushed juniper. Noon. High noon cliché but honest. We crest a rise and Sweetwater Valley unveils itself in widescreen. The river S-curves through cottonwood banks bright as minted coins under sun. Beyond, the town lies sprinkled like dice, plank roofs, tin chimneys, church steeples slender as a hatpin. A freight wagon rumbles across the distant bridge, dust tailing behind like an exclamation mark that forgot what sentence it belongs to. We stop at a weather-whittled sign reading "Sweetwater 5 miles, keep your powder dry," a recommendation more than a rule. Nearby an abandoned windmill groans, every rotation squealing a rusty note on the prairie's broken violin. You decide it's a good spot for lunch. Bread, jerky, and one scandalously squishy apple divide between you and the horse. The horse declines jerky, accepts apple core. While chewing, you reread the diary entry, hoping extra daylight will reveal meaning in the unfinished dash. It doesn't. Saddle up again. The river glimmers closer, cottonwood fuzz drifts, catching sunlight so each mote becomes a firefly impersonator. A holiness sneaks into the breeze, water, leaf, possibility, and you almost forget funerals and mudslides. Almost. Crossing the Sweetwater Bridge, you meet a 3-wagon cattle drive stalled, while drovers debate toll price. The toll keeper, a wiry man whose beard looks knitted by lightning, announces, 1 bit per hoof. The lead drover retorts, 1 bit per cow? That's daylight robbery. The keeper spits and clarifies, hoof, not cow. Math erupts. Drovers blanch. You slide past as they haggle, offering condolences, and silently counting that a longhorn steer does in fact have 4 reasons to bankrupt its owner. Town gates, if 2 sagging posts count, frame the main street. Sweetwater smells of river mud, fry bread, and printer's ink. Posters flap announcing a grand autumn harvest dance tonight. Another poster advertises Phineas Gable's patent miracle liniment, cures snake bite, heartache, and republicanism. You wonder if the order of ailments matters. You hitch the horse outside the post office, a brick queue boasting an eagle relief so pompous it looks like the bird demanded royalties. Stepping inside, you're greeted by chalk dust and the rasp of a sorting clerk sliding mail into pigeonholes. He doesn't look up until you clear your throat with a polite, "Afternoon, friend." He peers over spectacles, eyes magnified like twin moons. You place the watch and diary on the counter. Traveller named S.M. didn't arrive. Any records? The clerk removes a ledger as thick as biblical guilt, flips pages smelling of old glue. S.M., S.M., his finger walks. Samuel or Sarah? We have a Sarah Marwick expecting post. Lives on Cotton Row. Could be your match. Cotton Row sits west of the church. Houses painted cheery blues. Picket fences draped with drying laundry that snaps like gossip. You find number 4, a cottage under willow trees. On its porch, a woman in calico rocks slowly, needlework in lap. She's middle-aged, hair pinned by efficiency more than vanity. A tea kettle whistles through an open window, the note quivering your spine with inexplicable dread. You approach, hat in hand. "Ma'am, pardon, are you Sarah Marwick?" She stands, smoothing her apron as though bracing for weather. "I am." You explain the coach ambush, offer diary and watch. Her face folds inward, but she doesn't crumble. Instead, she draws a breath deep enough to anchor a ship. "He was my brother Stephen," she says, voice brittle porcelain, "heading here to start a medical practice." She opens the watch, fingertips tracing initials. Tears fill but do not fall. They hover, unsure if they're allowed. Words flounder. She finally nods, not at you, but at everything painful. "Thank you for bringing him home, in a way." She presses the watch to her heart, diary under her palm like a second pulse, and invites you for tea. Inside smells like bergamot, beeswax polish, and quiet heartbreak. A doctor's bag sits by the hearth, new, unused. She confesses she learned earlier of the stage tragedy, but no belongings were found. Your delivery knits closure. Loose stitch, but still. The clock on the mantel ticks with surgical precision. Stephen's, maybe. Between sips, she asks where you're staying. You realise you haven't planned beyond this door. She offers the attic guest room. It has a view of the river. Stephen would have insisted. You accept because refusing would insult the dead and the living. The sun tilts long shadows across floorboards. Outside, fiddles tune for the harvest dance. You promise to escort Sarah so she might feel her brother near among lively sounds. She nods, mouth unsure of smiling. Upstairs, the attic is warm with wood smell and dust motes, swirling like timid spirits whenever you breathe. Through the dormer window, orange sky kisses the cottonwoods. You set your saddlebag down, stretch, and take inventory of your emotions. Sadness, relief, something else sprouting where grief uprooted illusions. A church bell rings 6 times. You change shirt, splash water on face, and head downstairs. Sarah stands in indigo shawl, eyes red-rimmed but determined. Outside, lanterns string across the square. Fiddle, banjo, and spoons racket cheerful. The scent of cinnamon fritters floats, hooking passers-by like cartoon finger waves. We join the migration of townsfolk toward the dance. The square glows, lanterns like captured moons, children darting between skirts. The band perched on a hay wagon kicks into a 2-step that sets even arthritic knees bobbing. You guide Sarah into the crowd. Neighbours greet her gently, offering condolences disguised as gossip about pie contests. She laughs once, small, but there. We drift by food stalls, venison chili bubbling, corn on the cob dripping butter, peach preserve so fragrant your tongue pouts with jealousy. Behind the grandstand, a dunk tank has Sheriff Burrows sitting arms crossed on a plank. A schoolteacher hurls a baseball, splashes him, kids squeal. You note the sheriff's grin. Even law can loosen suspenders tonight. Halfway through the band's 3rd reel, you become conscious of the cold seeping through your coat. Autumn reminds everyone it owns the night. You rub arms, and because you're a courteous host even within your own head, you turn to the audience that listens somewhere beyond lantern light and say, "This story took us a long time to gather. If you're finding it worth the cold, subscribe. And now, back to the hearth." Sarah decides she's ready to rest. You escort her home beneath a sky jewelled with stars so crisp they look freshly coined. Breath puffs like lazy ghosts. She thanks you again, voice steadier, and retires. You linger on the porch, absorbing night sounds, distant fiddle still soaring, river gurgling secrets, frogs negotiating treaties. You wander back toward town to find lodging of your own. The Red Lantern boarding house reveals vacancy. The proprietor, Mrs. Belmont, welcomes you with cocoa and a cat that immediately commandeers your lap. The room smells of lavender sachets and old paperbacks of sermons. As you drift to sleep, the cat kneads your blanket like it's working dough for midnight pastries. Dream arrives disguised as train smoke, curling over golden wheat. Stephen boarding again, tip in hat, journey completing in another timeline. A scream slashes dreams wide open. You jolt, knocking the cat into indignant orbit. Outside, hoofbeats pound, then halt. Pistol shots clap. 1, 2. Glass shatters. You snatch boots, revolver, race downstairs. Street chaos. Figures in bandanas storm the bank's rear door. Torches flickering lunatic shadows. A watchman sprawls, hat rolling like a kicked tin cup. Instinct moves you. You flank the alley, stepping on crates that stink of molasses. A raider inside fills a saddlebag with bills, curses when a die pack bursts blue. Another swings lantern threateningly. You cock revolver, bark, drop it, or meet darkness. The one with lantern turns, eyes widen over scarf. Bang! Your shot misses on purpose but shatters the lantern. Darkness swoops, raid momentum broken. They scramble, spilling coins and profanity. One vaults a window, lands wrong, yelps. Sheriff Burroughs barrels in from Main Street with townsfolk wielding pitchforks and hefty moral outrage. Raiders flee on horses. Gunfire trails, but nobody drops. You kneel by the wounded watchman, a glancing bullet wound. You tear sleeve, stanch blood. He groans gratitude. Sheriff clasps your shoulder. Fast thinking. You shrug. Adrenaline still yodels through veins. Dawn finds Sweetwater buzzing heavier than locusts at a corn carnival. Bank manager Crispin tallies losses with ledger lines that smoke. Dye-stained bills flap on clotheslines like avant-garde art. You sip coffee black as roofing tar, leaning against the sheriff's porch rail. He plans to telegraph Pinkertons. You picture the 2 agents from the flood train and hope they like encore performances. The post clerk arrives, brandishing envelopes sealed with state crest. Sheriff dispatch from Capitol says a federal payroll coach arrives tomorrow. That raid last night was warm-up. Everyone exhales like deflated bagpipes. Sheriff mutters a swear jar's worth, then turns to you. I could use another gun-riding shotgun. You glance at your trembling coffee cup, hands arguing with fear. Yet something inside signs the contract before your mouth catches up. I'll ride. Preparation whirls. Blacksmith hammers shoe nails. Sparks showering night blue. Livery hands brush lather off restless horses. Merchants board windows. Mothers bake extra bread as if starch could shield from bullets. Town hums like a hive that knows bears are coming. Afternoon, you walk river path, hoping calm water will loan courage. Cottonwood leaves clap like timid applause overhead. Sarah appears, carrying basket of bandages she's sewn from old muslin. I heard about last night, she says. Take these. You thank her, unsure whether the lump in throat is dread or tenderness. Evening meeting in church, wooden pews packed, oil lamps flicker sermons on faces. Sheriff outlines plan. Decoy wagons, hillside lookouts, telegraph to Fort Riley for cavalry. Town voto passes unanimously, a rare moment of unity bigger than gossip. Night deepens. You saddle a fresh chestnut mare. The animal's coat smells like sun-baked pennies and hope. In your pocket, Sarah slipped Stephen's diary. For luck, she said. You run thumb over worn leather and feel the weight of promises you haven't even made yet. The payroll coach is scheduled to depart pre-dawn, racing low light. You, sheriff, 2 deputies, and the stage driver gather behind the barn. Crickets chirp slower now, as if afraid volume will attract history's worst kind of audience. You fetch water for the mare, she nuzzles your shoulder. Somewhere near the mercantile, a fiddler practices a lullaby off-key, perhaps too nervous to sleep. East horizon bruises violet. Lanterns snuff. Horses shuffle. Metal bits clink. Driver whispers, "Mount up." The stage creak groans. Wheels start rolling. Hooves drum tempo steady, almost ceremonial. You take left flank. Deputy Harris the right. Rifles rest across saddle horns like sleeping rattlers. A mile out, prairie fog rises, blanketing the road with milk so thick it could hush screams, your breath feathers. The coach continues, loom and shape in whitening gloom. Half hour passes uneventful, until a whistle pierces fog. Not birdsong, signal. Ahead, silhouette of felled tree lies across path. Driver reins hard. Raiders erupt from sage, yowling. Gunfire stitches dawn. Your rifle bucks. A raider spins off saddle. Another fires. Slug bites your hat brim. Hat flings away like fleeing idea. Deputies return fire. Sheriff's shotgun roars. Chaos condenses. Hooves churning soil into pepper clouds. Gunsmoke layering incense above it all. A raider with red scarf charges coach door. Swings axe to pry lock. You wheel mare, gallop full tilt, shoulder him. He topples. Your mare nearly trips but recovers. You fire point blank. His pistol flies away, hand likely broken. More riders crest ridge, the second wave. You glimpse a familiar coat among them. Courier from flood night. Betrayal tastes like tin in your mouth. He leads charge, revolver gleaming. Shots trade. Deputy Harris takes slug in thigh, collapses clutching reins. You move to cover him, firing at ridge. Fog complicates everything, turning foes into ghosts until muzzle flash brands them alive. Then thunder, not weather, cavalry bugle. From east, Fort Riley troopers thunder down slope. Sabres catching sunrise like angry mirrors. Raiders falter. Some flee, others tussle but are rounded. Courier tries to bolt. Your bullet shatters his reins. He crashes, is swarmed by cavalry. Battle subsides into moans, clinking chains. You help bandage Harris. Sarah's linen wraps crimson quickly but holds. Sheriff claps your back, calls you a runt hero. You mutter something about lucky diaries. Sun fully breaks. Fog retreating into creeks. Captured raiders corralled. Courier glares at you. Eyes hold regret deeper than river culverts. You realize greed nibbled him away from decency. The watch in your pocket ticks softly. A reminder choices carve fate. The coach reaches Sweetwater, escorted by cavalry. Town cheers, flags whip. Bunting appears as if conjured by patriotic sorcerers. Children chase the parade. Bakers fling biscuits like confetti. Victory smells of gunpowder, sour sweat, and cinnamon fritters reheated for celebration. You dismount, legs wobbling like pulled taffy. Sarah runs forward, relief washing cheeks petal pink. She hands you fresh bandage roll as though you're still mid-battle. By dusk, Sheriff hosts a speech on courthouse steps. He raises payroll chest high so sunlight flashes off brass fittings. He thanks citizens, cavalry, and our new friend who rode through storms, floods, and fog to stand with us. The crowd applauds. Some yell, "Speech!" You oblige briefly, discuss community, courage, and tumbleweed philosophy. Celebration spills into Harvest Dance's second night. Fiddle and banjo rocket higher. You and Sarah join a reel, laughter weaving beats tighter than telegraph wire. For a moment, tragedy unthreads from memory, prairie smells of hay and possibility. Later you find yourself at riverbank again. Moon lays silver ribbons on water. Sarah stands beside, quiet. She asks what you'll do next. You tip head, thinking of diary, telegraph stakes, the world beyond. Before you answer, distant thunder mutters from west. A storm, or maybe just the world reminding you it's enormous and impatient for new stories. Lantern light from town paints your faces warm. You turn to Sarah, open mouth, and the buffalo grass behind you rustles. You spin, hand on revolver. From the shadows emerges a figure limping, hat low, coat shredded by briars. He raises a hand, bloodied but empty, and wheezes, "Sweetwater's not safe. More coming. Trust no one." Then collapses, clutching a telegram drenched in sweat. Lanterns from the dock sway, casting wild streaks on his ashen face. The paper crinkles in his fist like a dying cricket. You kneel, heart slamming, as moonlight reveals the telegram heading, "Stop the wire or the wire stops you." River rushes dark beside you, reflecting stars that feel suddenly sharp as broken glass, and just as ready to cut. By dawn's third yawn, the coyote has long since trotted off, and you, still wired from Rye, lantern show sorcery and that rider's phantom shout, haven't closed your eyes. You're surprised the town's rooster doesn't accuse you of stealing his job when you rise before he does. The air taste of penny copper and damp ash, that strange bittersweet flavour disasters leave behind. You shoulder a bedroll still friends with yesterday's thunder. It smells like wet canvas, wood smoke, and sleepless decisions. And check your revolver, more out of habit than bravado. The diary of SM bumps your ribs again, a stubborn metronome. Funny how paper can feel heavier than iron once it borrows meaning. On the street, dawn light pours like lukewarm coffee over rooflines. Boards glisten, swollen from storm binging, and every nailhead winks like gossip. Mrs. Calhoun's bakery exhales the first sighs of yeast, sweet, warm, forgiving. You pocket a roll so fresh it could still be dreaming of wheat stalks, then saddle the bay gelding loaned by the telegraph lieutenant. He's a cinnamon-coloured brute named after President Grant, though his manners lean closer to Vice President Schuyler Colfax. Stubborn when sober, downright rebellious when fed oats. You cluck him forward. Hooves splash through puddles that mirror a sky still bruised lavender. Past the livery you spot the undertaker wiping sawdust from black coat sleeves. He waves, solemn as punctuation. Past the mercantile, newly delivered barrels of nails steam in rising sun. Past the sheriff's office, empty porch, chess rook abandoned on a windowsill like strategy postponed. Out of town the world opens fast, as if someone yanked a canvas cover off a gigantic model train set. Sagebrush, beads dew, jackrabbits sprint in syllables. Every breath tastes like menthol sprinkled with rust. Somewhere, meadowlarks hold choir practice. Their notes drift above the clop-clop cadence that massages your spine. The Sweetwater Trail forks south at Dry Creek, which, thanks to last night, is a sloshing caramel river. You guide Grant across, boots lifted like debutantes avoiding mud. Water licks leather. Your toes feel the chill through worn soles. Midway you glimpse minnows feasting on drowned tumbleweed seeds. Tiny silver strikes in chocolate swirl. They remind you survival is a game of opportunists. Beyond the ford rises Red Hollow Butte, scarlet stone stacked like angry layer cake. Rain has carved zigzag scars into its face, fresh wounds glistening. Wind whistles through shallow caves, sounding eerily like harmonica scales in minor key. You stop to water the horse at a seep pooling turquoise in shade. The mineral tang bites your tongue. Iron and something else. Maybe stories. As you tighten cinches, a movement among junipers snags your eye. A boy can't be more than 12, clothes ragged as last year's flags, coaxing a burro overloaded with scrap metal. He freezes when you hail him, but loosens at your campfire smile. Name's Ezekiel, calls himself Zeke, says he's scouring flood debris for iron to sell at the fort. His burro, Hickory, farts an opinion. You trade him a heel of bread for news. He tells you riders with blue bandanas passed by at dawn. Rumour is they're scouting for another stage to cut. Your shoulders tighten until they squeak. Zeke shrugs. Danger is background hum to frontier kids. You slip him a spare .2, cartridge as good luck charm. He grins, teeth white against sunburnt grin, and melts back into junipers. Grant picks up pace along a cattle trail braided with hoof prints. The sun climbs, fat and unforgiving. Heat lifts resin from pinon pine, perfumes the air with Christmas memories unearned by this savage month. Somewhere a rattler buzzes, but you and horse keep an unspoken pact. Ignore music that doesn't invite dancing. High noon. You crest a bluff and Sweetwater Valley unrolls below. The river, a metallic ribbon, meanders through cottonwoods that shimmer like coins. Beyond, a cluster of tin roofs, a windmill twirling its lazy semaphore, two church steeples arguing which point's closer to heaven. Smoke spirals from chimneys blue as lullabies. But first, Fort Claymore guards the valley mouth. Wooden palisade jagged as broken piano keys, Union flag snapping stiff. A sentry on catwalk calls down. You flash the lieutenant's letter, and gates groan open. Inside, soldiers drill beneath punishing sun. Muskets flash, boots thud. Sergeant curses would make a bishop faint. The smell is gun oil, boiled wool, and fear disguised as discipline. You're ushered to Colonel Havers, a barrel in blue broadcloth. His office reeks of cigar and horse liniment. Either could catch fire from his temper. He scans the diary, the watch, your face. When you mention renegade attacks and blue bandanas, his jaw sets like mortar. Stage lines mean mail sacks, and mail sacks mean payroll drafts. Mess with those and you poke Uncle Sam's wallet. He assigns 2 cavalry troopers to escort you into Sweetwater, Corporal Diaz, who hums habanera tunes while loading his Spencer, and Private Barclay, fresh from Boston, skin still negotiating with Prairie Sun. They ride sorrels. You 3 kick dust that smells of ambition and possible tombstones. Sweetwater's main street leans slightly downhill to the river, as if the town has contemplated sliding away and decided against it, for now. Porch posts wear vines of morning glory. Kids use them as poles for one-breath climbing races. You tie horses outside the telegraph office, windows buzzing with flies drunk on ink. Inside, the operator, a woman in sleeves rolled to elbows, hair pinned like an infantry formation, clicks out messages faster than you can blink. She pauses, regards you with eyes the colour of river clay, not yet soft but willing. You explain about SM. She frowns, flips ledgers, produces a name, Sarah McAllister, governess travelling west to tutor Rancher Bright's children. Due yesterday but never arrived. Silence presses your eardrums. Corporal Diaz requests the Bright Ranch location. The operator sketches a map on blotter paper. You smell cedar from the pencil, old as logging camps. Outside, cowbells drift like lazy cymbals. Barclay asks if you've eaten. Your stomach asks louder. Across the street stands Widow Chang's cookshop, windows fogged by noodles dancing in boiling broth. You enter, and are swallowed by star anise, ginger and sizzling pork, an olfactory ceasefire to dusty war outside. Over bowls of longevity noodles, Widow Chung says bandits struck a rail supply convoy 2 nights past. Left lanterns burning in loot piles like twisted offering to darkness. Her ladle wags as she speaks. Each scoop of soup sounds like punctuation. Fortified, you ride northwest following cottonwood corridors. Afternoon heat quilts the valley, and cicadas thrum like telegraph keys hopped on laudanum. Diaz whistles counterpoint, La Paloma, in bright defiance of doom. Barclay tries butchering the tune on harmonica. It dies gurgling. Mid-mile, a church bell rings behind you. Odd hour for vespers. Instinct snarls. You drag reins, pivot Grant toward a knoll. From there, Sweetwater glitters normal, except dust plumes racing toward town from 3 compass points. Blue bandanas flap at their throats, easy to spot through field glasses. You taste gunpowder before a shot is even fired. Diaz spits a curse involving saints and mules. He suggests warning town. Barclay argues intercepting bandits will spare civilians. Your elected tiebreaker, palms sweating like a lard candle. The watch in your pocket ticks second opinions. Finally you decide on compromise. You ride hard for Bright Ranch to secure kids and governess if alive. Diaz and Barclay gallop back to rouse militia. Grant lunges into gallop, hooves pounding sycamore roots. Wind tears your hat cord taut. Dust lashes cheeks like gritty soap. Prairie dogs dive for burrows. Ahead, hills ripple with waist-high grass turned gold by drought, blades slicing daylight into shivers. You smell crushed wild mint from Grant's stride. Bright Ranch emerges in heat haze, cedar house trimmed with ambition, barn groaning under hayloft, and far off a windmill flapping lazy. But something's off. No chickens clucking, no hounds barking. You slow, thumb the revolver. Flies drone thick near the barn door, the country's smallest vultures. You dismount, boots sinking in dust soft as flour. Barn interior gapes black. You step inside and nearly retch. 2 steer carcasses lie slit, blood pooled like tar, attracting flies that hum funeral dirges. On wallboards a message in crimson. Tell Uncle Sam, stop the rails or more will bleed. Letters sloppy but loud. House next. Front door ajar, squeaking. Floorboards inside show muddy prints. You call out. Your voice bounces unanswered. Parlour smells of overturned kerosene and lilies gone sour. Upstairs you find a child's doll missing an arm staring from stair top. Porcelain face cracked like dry creek bed. In rear bedroom, sun slants through bullet holes speckling wallpaper roses. You step closer, a figure on bed, hands tied, gag undone but lips blue. Sarah McAllister. Pulse flutters, eyelids tremble. You cut bindings. She gasps air like it's a discovery. She whispers bandits took children, east toward Devil's Backbone Pass. Heart tunnels sound away. All you hear is blood in skull. You promise rescue, though promises weigh nothing against terrain and bullets. You settle her with water, tincture from bedside kit, then bolt. Outside you spy tracks, small hoofprints, wagon ruts, boot marks with heel spurs, fresh as gossip. You whistle Grant Mount and chase sun downhill. Afternoon light slants cruelly, throwing mirage shadows that impersonate riders until they dissolve. Grasslands shift to juniper scrub. The air sucks moisture from breath. You catch whiff of campfire, mesquite smoke twisting skyward like lit fuse. You crest a ridge and there, a clearing ringed by basalt boulders. 3 wagons circled, 6 men in blue bandanas tending cookpot. 2 kids bound near wheel, cheeks tear-streaked. Your right hand does math. 6 bullets loaded, nerves infinite. But Grant snorts. Your ride is not stealthy. Bandits pivot, rifles raise like angry questions. You urge Grant sideways, firing once to spook. Powder burns nostrils, horse leaps, hooves churning dirt. Return fire whistles past, one slug bites your saddle skirt. You dive behind a boulder smelling of sun-baked lizard musk. A voice drawls, "Hand over the watch, stranger." Government gold bond inside. You blink, didn't know. You shout back their throttling wrong chicken. This watch holds tears, not treasure. Laughter replies. Stalemate brews. Then thunder of hooves. Diaz and Barclay, plus 7 militia volunteers Crest Ridge firing Spencer repeaters. Lead mosquitoes zip hungry. Bandits scatter like broken marionettes. You rush children, cut ropes, pull them behind basalt. One bandit tries to flee with saddlebags. Barclay's shot snaps dust at his boots. He drops bag, bolts into chaparral. Diaz tackles another, hogties him with blue bandana. Minutes later it's over. 2 bandits dead, 3 captured, 1 vanished. Children sob into your coat, smell of sweat, wildflowers, raw terror. Campfire stew singes forgotten. Smoke mingles with blood tang. The scent Frontier uses for punctuation. You search saddlebags. Find letters marked U.S. Treasury. Gold drafts intended for rail wages. Plunder with purpose. Derail progress and starve expansion. You pocket disco. No, you store as evidence. Escort back to ranch under lavender dusk. Sarah meets you on porch, tears carving salt on soot cheeks. Kids collide into her arms. You feel your chest crack open like a piñata of relief. Stars peak early, curious. Cavalry rolls prisoners to Fort Claymore for question time likely delivered with brass knuckles of the law. Colonel Havers thanks you with handshake-like vice and slips you a telegraph chit. Priority travel past any Union line. Paper privilege smells faintly of ink and manifest destiny. Sweetwater church bell sings thanksgiving. Townsfolk gather in square, lanterns bobbing like captured fireflies. Widow Cheng ladles noodle soup for everyone. Gambler deals free hands of Pharaoh. Preacher offers pews for naps you've earned 4 times over. But rest is a coy mistress. You perch on water trough, sip sarsaparilla. The watch and diary lie heavy in coat. Sarah rests with children now. At sunrise you'll return her keepsakes. Mystery solved. Not quite. Why did bandits know about watch? Who funds their sabotage? The Prairie Grove whispers but gives no names. A shooting star arcs across black velvet ceiling, tails smeared like chalk stroke. You make no wish. Frontier grants nothing for free, yet your pulse hums with possibility. Somewhere beyond Sweetwater wires will hum, rails will sing, towers of glass will glimmer like those magic lantern slides. Maybe you'll ride those rails. Maybe you'll tell this tale under different starfields. For now, the square quiets. Dogs curl by fire pits. Children's crying becomes sniffles, then soft snores. You feel dirt in every crease. Gunpowder ghosts in nostrils, but also warmth. The slow ember of community after shared fear. The town clock clicks toward midnight. You think of that first puddle in the morning street and realize a single day has stretched longer than some wars. Survival isn't endurance of bullets alone. It's a dance with dust, storm, greed, and hope intertwined. You stand, stretch spine, wince. Over by the telegraph office, the operator, clay-eyed sentinel, still clicks messages, probably telling Fort Claymore the children are safe. Every tap a heartbeat, every wire a vein. You nod thanks into the night. A harmonica starts. Barclay again, gentler tune now, and the valley listens. Grass hushes, crickets pause, even the river seems to slow so notes can float unbothered. It's a lullaby built from tin reeds and second chances. You close your eyes, finally, and let the sound carry you just far enough from memories of rifles barking in Juniper Ring. Tomorrow there will be reports, repairs, maybe revenge. Tonight there is only this. Cool dust under boot soles, sky wider than justice, and melody that says, if not peace, at least a brief pretend. And somewhere upslope, in shadows of cottonwoods, a lone figure, maybe the vanished bandit, maybe someone worse, watches lanterns wink out one by one and whispers plans the wind politely refuses to share with you. Dawn sidles into Sweetwater like a shy visitor bearing cinnamon light, brushing tar paper rooftops with the faintest peach glow. You and the town wake simultaneously, every yawn, creak, and spoon clink joining an accidental symphony no composer would dare score. The previous night's firefight is already local legend. Nervous laughter at the pump well, hushed retellings over biscuits, children making finger gun pew-pew sounds until mothers shush them back to chores. But under the surface, tension snaps and settles like cooling iron. You're nursing coffee so strong it might file your boots for you when Sarah McAllister approaches, shawl wrapped tight enough to silence tremors. She thanks you again, voice threaded with exhaustion and relief. The children hover behind her, clutching tin cups of milk. Their eyes, once saucer-wide with terror, now flicker with cautious curiosity, as if you might unfold another miracle from your saddlebag. You kneel, hand them polished agate marbles, and for a beat the frontier becomes a playground. Outside the cook shop, Widow Cheng fends off admirers with her ladle. She gifts you a cloth bundle of bao steaming with pork and spiced cabbage. Hero food, she winks, then orders you to eat before the wind steals heat. The dough is cloud soft. Ginger stings your sinuses in the sweetest way. You taste gratitude, pepper, and the simple fact that you're alive. A bell tolls. Funeral hour for the 2 militia who fell. The whole town drifts to the hillside cemetery, boots crunching frost, dresses rustling like distant surf, and forms a crescent around pine coffins that still gleam with saw marks. The preacher's voice is shaky thunder, his hands smell of lilac oil covering fear. When the volleys fire, each rifle crack ricochets inside your ribs. Powder drifting across cold morning air smells like a second storm. Back in Colonel Haver's office, the carpet is already muddy with boot prints. He's pinning blame, rearranging patrols, swinging decision weight like a blacksmith hammer. Maps sprawl everywhere. Ink rivers, penciled arrows, question marks like crooked wings. You lean over one showing telegraph lines veining west toward the Laramie railheads. A red X marks Devil's Backbone Pass, yesterday's battlefield. But there's a new circle around Dead Horse Gulch, bandits shifting ground. Havers wants reconnaissance, but Sweetwater can't spare more troopers. So he offers you a trade, courier a packet of rail payroll drafts to Laramie. Their scheduled escort got ambushed, and in return he'll put cavalry on permanent watch around Sweetwater. Risky? Sure. Profitable. He slides an envelope thicker than most Bibles across the desk. Hazard pay. You have 15 minutes to decide. Wind rattles shutters. Somewhere a horse nickers, impatient. You watch dust motes spiral in sunlight. Tiny wandering souls. Finally you nod. Havers exhales through cigar smoke, signing release forms with a stubby pencil that squeaks like a field mouse. Diaz and Barkley volunteer to ride shotgun. One more rinse cycle through Danger Laundry. Telegraph Clara, you learned her name after midnight, offers a portable key set so you can tap distress signals along the way. Her fingers brush yours, static crackles, or maybe that's just nerves humming. Your new convoy assembles in the square like a travelling circus without posters. 3 freight wagons loaded with kegs of square nails, sacks of flour, and crates stamped Edison lamp parts. Delicate glass bulbs swaddled in sawdust. The drafts are hidden in a coffee tin beneath Wagon 2's driver's seat. You hide the diary of SM inside your vest pocket. There's still unfinished business, but one quest at a time. The Teamsters are a mismatched trio. Ruthless Ray, a former riverboat gambler whose moustache points true north. Ida, short fuse McKenna, banjo on her lap and shotgun across her knees. And old Rami, Syrian spice trader turned mule whisperer, speaking Arabic lullabies to his animals. The lot of you look like the setup for a punchline no one has written yet. Wheels creak, hoofs stamp dust, townsfolk wave kerchiefs, and you're off, clattering over Sweetwater's wooden bridge. The river below glimmers pewter, its current hurrying east like gossip. On the opposite bank, prairie unfurls wide enough to frame small talk with eternity. The open road. Morning air smells of sunlit sage and axle grease. Sparrows chase the wagon's dust tails, tweeting commentary or heckling, while coyotes dart at a respectful distance. Curious about potential lunch opportunities, you adjust scarf to keep grit from teeth. Diaz rides point, Spencer repeater across Saddlehorn. Barclay brings up rear, harmonica jingling whenever he breathes. Miles melt in rhythm. Wheel clunk, hoof thunk, harness jingle, your own heart thump. Grass waves like a green ocean, each blade tipped with dew diamonds. The sky's vault seems higher today, a cathedral without a collection plate. At noon you stop at Parched Dog Spring, named for a legendary mutt that lapped the puddle dry during a drought. Today the pool is healthy, reflecting cotton clouds. Horses drink in stereo slurps, humans munch jerked beef tough enough to break lesser jaws. Ida strums banjo chords that drift sweet and sharp as apple peel. Sudden buzz overhead, then a hawk plummets, snatches jackrabbit, and arcs away, leaving only dust spirals. Ruthless Ray tips hat. Nature don't play, friends. You swallow jerky, tasting mortality rye crisp. Dusk, at Dead Horse. Gulch. By twilight the convoy reaches ragged ridges casting shadows like broken spears. Dead Horse Gulch yawns below, narrow canyon walls streaked ochre and ash. Legend says a cavalry remount string once plunged here during a storm, leaving echoes that spook horses to this day. Great place for an ambush, Diaz growls. You camp high on plateau where wind carries scent of juniper and cryptic decay. Fires are kept small, shielded by rocks. Old Rami sprinkles za'atar on beans, filling night with thyme and sesame fragrance. You'd follow that smell into Hades. Everyone splits watch shifts. During yours the moon hangs low, swollen as a lantern globe, painting wagon spokes silver. Coyotes yip lullabies. Your eyelids flutter like moth wings. A twig snaps. You freeze. Something, someone, moving beyond firelight. Hand drifts to Colt. Heart pounds timpani. A second crack. Then Ida's banjo twangs accidentally as she rolls in sleep. The intruder retreats. Soft footsteps fade. You catch whiff of tobacco and sweat. Bandit perfume. Morning reveals boot prints leading to cliff edge, then angling away toward the gulch. Recon reveals nothing stolen, yet stomach churns. They were scouting, measuring appetites. Or the Ghost Rails Day 2 sees ever thinner vegetation. Topsoil gives way to rust-coloured sand. You pass an abandoned narrow-gauge track. Rails twisted by flash flood. Sleepers bleached to bone. Telegraph poles stand like giants with their heads snipped off. Glass insulators glitter broken on ground. They crunch under wagon wheels like tiny stained glass windows. Ruthless Ray says this spur line died after 2 derailments and a banker's sudden disappearance. Damn shame. Easiest route through the plateau. As heat rises, mirages shimmer, offering imaginary lakes that vanish the moment hope blinks. Horses lather white foam under girths. You smell vinegar of tired muscle. You ration water. Each swallow echoes down throat like coin in well. Mid-afternoon thunder rumbles, but no clouds show. Then the ground trembles. A stampede. Everyone scrambles onto boulders, and from the south bursts a herd of wild mustangs, manes flaming copper in sun, hooves hurling sand. The earth quivers like kettle drum. You feel sound in bones more than ears. They surge past wagons in a comet tail of dust, vanish over rise. Ida exhales. Imagine saddling that velocity. Trouble on the River Black, late day. You reach River Black, named for its obsidian sheen where volcanic silt floats. The ferry is a single flatboat hauled by a rope cable and optimism. Ferryman, long beard plaited with beads, eyes the wagon skeptically. Currents high from mountain snowmelt. Crossing will need 3 trips, time you don't have. As first wagon loads onto deck, arrow hisses from reeds, thunks into railing. Another splinters barrel of nails, metal clanks like furious rain. Ambush! You dive behind flour sacks. Clouds erupt, coat in faces ghost white. Diaz returns fire, Spencer barking echoes across water. You spot bowmen in willows wearing, not bandanas, but war paint. Ute raiders maybe, angered by rails invading hunting grounds. Old Rami lashes mules. Ferry lurches midstream. Arrows rain. One lodges in your hat brim, vibrating insect hum near ear. You fire Colt, bullets skipping across water like cursed stones. Ida's shotgun booms. Smoke smells like burned sugar. On shore, Barclay circles to flank, but reins pull up short. Horse rears, arrow in flank. Barclay thrown, hits sand with gut punch grunt. You yell, sprint down gangplank mid-fire, heart drumming triple time. One raider charges, tomahawk raised, his face streaked crimson clay. Your revolver clicks empty. Miscount. You duck. Tomahawk whistles overhead. Carve wind. You tackle attacker. Both crash into reeds reeking of stagnant water and crawdad mud. Struggle. Splash. He's stronger. Hands find arrow in sand. You twist, jab butt into his ribs. He hisses, retreats, disappearing into willow gloom. Diaz's shots drive remaining raiders off. The skirmish goes quiet except groaning horse and ferryman swearing in languages likely invented on spot. You bind Barclay's arm, just bruised. But horse must be put down. You whisper apology, pull trigger, thunder cracks, smell of cordite and sorrow mingles. Ferry finally moves wagon across. Second and third crossings tense but unchallenged. Perhaps raiders sensed drafts weren't worth casualties. Payroll paper doesn't buy buffalo. Midnight on Crimson Mesa. That night you camp on high mesa lit by starlight so sharp it could shave whiskers. Injured spirits linger, everyone silent except crackle of yucca logs. You read Diary of SM to distract mind, entries describing railroad travel, the crush of emigrant dreams, children's laughter mixing with steam whistle, fear of outlaw rumours. You picture her writing under lamplight, hand steady while world trembled outside. Wind tastes metallic, storm brewing. You tuck diary away, climb rock spire for lookout duty. Horizon flickers with sheet lightning, clouds glow purple, stirring like leviathans. Across valley lantern sparks reveal riders pacing parallel. Blue bandanas glinting stray moonlight. Shadows multiply. They outnumber your group 4-1. You descend, relay news. Choices. Run overnight risking broken axles or fortify and pray. Ida suggests a third, decoy. She volunteers her banjo and rebellious mule Biscuit as noise magnet, leading a false convoy south while real wagons cut north through Dry Needle Pass. Plan is madness wearing spurs, so it just might work. Old Rami curses in Arabic but rigs empty barrels on Biscuit's travois for rattling effect. Ida stuffs flour sacks with tumbleweed to mimic silhouettes, ties lanterns inside. At 3 a.m. she strums raucous banjo while Biscuit clomps downhill, jangling like drunk cavalry. Bandits bite. You watch torch dots peel from horizon, chasing banjo echoes into darkness. Heart cramps. Hope Ida outruns fate. Convoy rolls opposite direction, wheels greased with tallow for silence. Dry Needle Pass lives up. Canyon walls scrape wagon sides. Sparks fly. Smell of quartz dust fills throats. Above, storm breaks. Rain descends cold and heavy, shushing every sound. You push onward by lightning flashes. Dawn deliverance. First glint of pink shows rails ahead. Union Pacific Main Line. Iron cords stretching to tomorrow. A telegraph shack squats beside track, chimney puffing coal smoke. You trot to door, shoes squelching mud. Inside, operator nods half asleep. Night shift. You tap Clara's code. 3 short, 2 long, 3 short. Reply comes, Ida safe. Biscuit kick 2 bandits. Escaped. Relief tastes like rainwater and dust all at once. Train whistle rises. Eastbound freight manifest roaring into station. Steam smells like wet metal and possibility. You load wagons onto flat cars. Payroll tin tucked beneath plough parts. Conductor stamps manifest. Ticket stub flutters like white moth. You, Diaz, Barclay and Ray board passenger coach smelling of kerosene lamps, cigar smoke and pine disinfectant. As wheels grind, towns and mesas slide backward. Windows frame kaleidoscope. Blooming cacti. Herds of pronghorn. Lightning shards still clawing distant sky. Inside, Ray teaches poker to Barclay using matchsticks. Diaz dozes, rifle hugged like lullaby teddy. You're too wired to sleep. You wander to observation platform. Wind roars, coal embers pepper sky. The world blurs, not running away, just moving on. You pull watch from pocket, feel its tick like a promise kept. Laramie appears mid-afternoon, its rooftops tin and hope. Depot bustles, porters wheeling trunks, mail clerks hauling sacks, labourers hollering for lumber loads. You deliver drafts to station paymaster. He counts zeros with moist lips, eyes shining. Receipt signed, envelope now lighter but still thick. Havers's hazard pay and a bonus. The paymaster mentions Ida already telegraphed your success. Her banjo heroics trending faster than train schedule. Town newspaper boy shouts headlines, Night Riders foiled. Your cheeks warm. A last ride. Business concluded, you consider next step. Diaz plans to escort Barclay east for medical leave. Ray heads riverboat direction, chasing fresh games. Old Rami returns to spices and mules. You owe Sarah that diary. You purchase a sleek new sorrel mare with slick chestnut coat and white blaze shaped like a comet. Saddle squeaks crisp, leather smelling of tannery tannins and adventure. Telegraph Clara's relay says Sarah and children staying in Sweetwater until Bright Ranch rebuilds. So you pivot south, pockets heavier, mind restless. Trail back feels different. Terrain hasn't changed, you have. Each juniper seems less menacing, each horizon wider. You camp in a box canyon where petroglyphs of bison dance across sandstone. Firelight makes them gallop. You add your own mark, a small watch symbol and initials SM. Future archaeologist can ponder. Second night you spot Ida around another campfire, Biscuit grazing. She's whittling a mule figurine, banjo gleaming nearby. Together you share beans spiced with her laughter. She tells how Biscuit kicked a bandit into creek. Bandit's blue bandana now lining Mule's saddle. You both laugh until coyotes file noise complaint. Homecoming. Sweetwater at dawn looks like a painting catching its own breath. You rein mare at edge of town, inhale bakery scent and fresh planned lumber. New sign outside telegraph office. Lines to Denver open in bold black. Progress marches faster than horseshoes. Sarah spots you, rushes across street, skirts swishing soot into swirls. Children trail, waving. You hand over diary and watch. Tears brim. Not sorrow but completion. She presses locket into your palm. Inside, a curl of her son's hair lost to fever years ago. For safekeeping, she says. Weight of trust heavier than gold. Colonel Havers telegraphs commendation to Army brass. Rumours say medal en route, though you'd trade ribbons for hot bath. Widow Chung reserves bathhouse tub, infuses water with ginger and eucalyptus. You soak, muscles melting like tallow. Steam fuzzes brain. Outdoors someone plays harmonica, maybe Barclay's Echo on Wind. The Festival of First Tracks. 2 nights later, Sweetwater hosts festival to celebrate rails reaching Valley Rim. Lanterns dangle from porch eaves, fiddles duel banjo and harmonica. Barrel fire smoke rises scented with pine pitch and apple peel. You weave through crowd-tasting honey corn cakes, roasted peppers, sarsaparilla fizz. Clara demonstrates portable telegraph to townsfolk. She types your name. Ticker tape spitting letters like mechanical applause. Kids attempt Morse, tapping nonsense. Adults cheer anyway. Later you join square dance under strings of opal paper lanterns. Sarah twirls daughter. Son rides piggyback on preacher. You partner with Ida. Boots stomping dust swirls under star whirl. Mare neighs nearby, perhaps jealous. A quiet edge of night. When music finally sighs silent, you sneak to riverbank. Water whispers secrets around smooth stones. Frogs croon bassline. You watch reflections flicker. Lantern clusters floating amber. Milky Way powdered sugar above. Somewhere upstream logs crack in distant camp. Maybe bandit or drifter or tomorrow's friend. You pull hazard pay envelope. Count currency by moonlight. Enough to buy land or lose in single poker hand. But money suddenly feels like second draft. First draft is stories, and you now carry pages full. You drop pebble into river. Rings widen, merge, vanish. Good metaphor for impact, you muse. Hoofbeats behind. Grant? No, the comet-blazed mare. She nudges shoulder. Hey, sweet breath. You scratch her forelock. Promise fresh oats. The wind shifts, bringing aroma of distant rain mixed with wood smoke and promise. You sense horizon pulling again. Maybe Colorado silver fields need stories. Maybe Oregon valleys. The map's enormous, and you've barely inked a corner. For now you save a moment. Boots in cool sand, sky unfurled, river humming lullaby. Town lights dim one by one, like a theatre curtain slowly falling. Your own eyelids follow suit, heavy as lead slugs drained of violence. Behind you, cedar logs in last feast bonfire collapse, sending up a brief tower of sparks, fireflies shot from cannon that drift, cool and wink out against night's velvet. You smile, a tip hat to stars, and whisper, let's see where the next branch line goes. 2 more journeys await around the bend. Don't miss them. Subscribe and ring that bell.